The shoes were the first thing they noticed. Not his face. Not his eyes. Not the quiet confidence with which he stood. The shoes. Old work boots. Thick leather once black, now faded into a tired brown. The soles were worn unevenly, shaped by years of walking on unforgiving ground. Cement floors, factory corridors, rain-soaked streets before sunrise. Small cracks ran along the sides, like wrinkles on a weathered face. They were clean, but no amount of cleaning could hide their age. In a room filled with polished Italian leather and mirror-shined dress shoes, the boots didn't just stand out. They offended. The boardroom sat on the 42nd floor, wrapped in glass and arrogance. Sunlight poured through the massive windows, bouncing off steel frames and marble floors. A long table stretched across the center, perfectly aligned chairs waiting for men and women who believed they owned the future. One by one, they entered. Executives in tailored suits, watches that cost more than houses, smiles trained in business schools and sharpened in boardrooms. They took their seats with the ease of people who had never been told, no. Then the old man walked in. No announcement, no entourage, no urgency. He pushed the glass door open gently, as if afraid of disturbing the air itself. The hinges barely made a sound. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him with care. And that was when the room reacted. A pause, brief, confused. Then the glances, eyebrows lifted, mouths twitched. A quiet ripple moved across the table. Who's that? Someone whispered. Is he maintenance? Another murmured. The old man stood near the door, hands relaxed at his sides. His jacket was plain, neither new nor dirty, simply old, like something chosen for usefulness rather than appearance. His hair was silver, combed neatly back. His face carried deep lines, not from worry, but from years of squinting into sunrises and watching long days end in exhaustion. He didn't look lost. That annoyed them. The receptionist noticed him too late. Her smile froze halfway across her face. "Oh, sir," she said quietly, walking toward him. "This floor is restricted." He smiled at her. A gentle smile, the kind that carried patience instead of apology. "I know," he said softly. She hesitated. "This meeting is for executives and board members only." "I understand," he replied. His voice was calm. Steady, not defensive, not embarrassed. That made a few people laugh. Not loud laughter, yet. Just the kind that slips out when people feel superior. A short chuckle, a snort disguised as a cough. A man near the center of the table leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Did someone schedule a tour group?" he joked. A few heads turned, smiles widened. Another executive glanced at the old man's boots again and smirked. "Facilities must be behind schedule today." The laughter spread. Still, the old man didn't move. He didn't explain himself. Didn't defend his presence. Didn't ask permission. He simply stood there, observing. He looked at the room the way a craftsman looks at a finished product, quietly evaluating what was done right and what was done wrong. His eyes drifted over the glass walls, the steel beams, the long table. This room hadn't always looked like this. He remembered when there were no windows, just concrete walls and exposed wiring. He remembered the smell of wet cement, the echo of tools hitting the floor. He remembered standing in this very space when it was nothing more than a promise and a risk. But no one else remembered that. The CEO finally looked up from his tablet. He paused, not because he felt threatened, but because he felt irritated. "Yes," the CEO said flatly. The old man met his gaze. "This meeting is private," the CEO continued. "You'll need to leave." There it was. The dismissal. The assumption. The old man nodded slowly. "Of course." A few executives exchanged amused glances. "Security," the CEO added, already turning back to his screen. The old man didn't argue. He took a step forward instead. The room reacted instantly. "Hey," someone said. He walked toward the table, his boots making soft, heavy sounds against the polished floor. Each step echoed louder than it should have, not because of volume, but because of contrast. Tap, 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 the sound of real work in a room of words. He reached an empty chair at the far end of the table and pulled it back. The scraping noise cut through the chatter like a blade. Conversations stopped. What do you think you're doing? A woman asked sharply. The old man sat down. I'm attending the meeting, he said simply. For a moment, no one spoke. Then laughter erupted. This time, it was louder. Open, unfiltered. A young executive nearly spilled his coffee. This has to be a joke. Another shook his head. Unbelievable. Someone muttered, the audacity. They laughed because they couldn't imagine any other reaction. Who was this man? Old, quiet, wearing work boots. In their world, those things disqualified you. The CEO leaned forward now, jaw tight. Sir, you're embarrassing yourself. The old man looked at him, eyes calm. I've been embarrassed before, he replied. It passes. That only made them laugh harder. They mistook his composure for ignorance. They didn't see how his hands rested on the table, not nervously, but familiarly. As if he had sat at countless tables like this before. As if this one held no special power over him. Someone whispered, probably wandered up from the service elevator. Another added, should we call his family? More laughter. The receptionist stood frozen near the door, unsure whether to feel sorry or afraid. The old man looked around the room again. Faces flushed with amusement. Eyes sharp with judgment. Postures relaxed in assumed dominance. They had no idea. He glanced at the company logo mounted on the wall, sleek, modern, glowing softly under hidden lights. He remembered sketching the first version of that logo on a napkin during a lunch break 30 years ago. Back when his hands were younger, but his vision was already clear. Back when the company was nothing but a rented warehouse and a dream that scared smarter men away. Back when laughter sounded very different. The CEO stood up now. Enough, he said. You have two choices. Leave on your own, or be escorted out. The room quieted. All eyes returned to the old man. For the first time, they really looked at his face. Not old, experienced, not weak, unshaken. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't threaten, didn't explain. He simply said, I helped pour the foundation of this building. Silence followed. Not belief, just confusion. A man scoffed. Sure you did. The old man smiled faintly. It was raining that day. We worked anyway. Someone rolled their eyes. This is ridiculous. The CEO waved his hand dismissively. Security, now. Still seated, the old man folded his hands together. I was curious, he said, to see what the company had become. That sentence landed differently. Not dramatic, not loud, but heavy. For a brief moment, something shifted, just enough for discomfort to creep in. Then laughter rushed back in to drown it. Because laughter is easier than doubt. And doubt is dangerous. They laughed at the boots. They laughed at the age. They laughed at the silence. They didn't realize they were laughing at the man who had built the ground they stood on. And they had no idea that before the meeting ended, before security arrived, before anyone apologized, the laughter would disappear completely. Chapter 2. Silence doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in. It settles between breaths, between glances, between thoughts people are afraid to finish. That was how it entered the boardroom. Not when the old man spoke. Not when security was called. But when the assistant returned. She didn't knock. She didn't ask permission. She pushed the glass doors open with shaking hands, her heels clicking too fast against the marble floor. Her face had lost all color, as if the life had been drained from it in a single sentence spoken elsewhere. The laughter died instantly, not because of respect, because fear recognizes itself. Sir, she said, her voice barely holding together as she leaned toward the CEO. The CEO didn't look up. I said call security. She swallowed. There, not coming. That got his attention. He turned sharply. What do you mean, not coming? Her eyes flicked, just for a fraction of a second, toward the old man at the end of the table. The room noticed. What's going on? Someone demanded. The assistant lowered her voice, but the room was too quiet now for secrets. The transfer finalized 10 minutes ago, she said. The majority shares. A pause. A dangerous pause. The CEO laughed once, short and sharp. That's not funny. I'm not joking, she replied. The tablet slipped slightly in his hand. Who authorized it? He asked. She hesitated, then said the words that cracked the room open. He did. Every eye turned. Every breath stopped. The old man remained seated, hands folded, posture relaxed. He looked neither triumphant nor apologetic, only patient, as if he had been waiting for the room to catch up. That's impossible, someone said. Another voice, sharper now, you can't just buy a company like this. The old man finally stood. The sound of his chair sliding back was soft, but in the silence, it echoed like thunder. I didn't just buy it, he said calmly. I bought it back. The CEO's face hardened. Who are you? The question sounded absurd now, late, overdue, almost embarrassing. The old man reached into his jacket and pulled out a thin folder. He placed it on the table gently, aligning it with care, as if even this moment deserved respect. I was the first employee, he said. And the last one who never left. Hands trembled as the CEO opened the folder. Documents. Signatures. Legal seals. Real. Final. The numbers alone made a few executives pale. Someone stood abruptly, chair tipping backward. This has to be fraud. The assistant shook her head. It's verified. Internationally. The silence thickened. Not empty now, but heavy. The kind of silence that presses against the ears. The old man walked slowly along the length of the table. No rush. No victory lap. His boots made the same steady sound as before, but now, no one laughed. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't come here to humiliate anyone, he said. You did that on your own. He stopped beside the window, looking out over the city. I remember this view, he continued. When it was nothing but construction dust and hope. He turned back to them. You see suits, he said. I see masks. No one interrupted. No one dared. When this company began, he said, we worked 16-hour days. No bonuses. No titles. Just belief. His voice never rose, but it didn't need to. We believed in building something honest. Something that lasted. He looked directly at the CEO now. Somewhere along the way, you forgot. The CEO tried to speak. Nothing came out. The old man returned to the head of the table, but didn't sit. As of this morning, he said, I hold controlling interest. He paused. And as of this moment, this meeting is over. No one moved. He glanced at the receptionist. You may go home early today. She blinked. Sir, you did nothing wrong, he said. Remember that. Her eyes filled with tears as she nodded and left the room. The old man turned back to the executives. I don't need applause, he said. I don't need apologies. He picked up his folder. But I will need honesty. He pointed to one man. You stay. Then another. You too. A few were dismissed with a simple nod toward the door. They left silently. No protests. No arguments. Power had shifted, and everyone felt it. When the room was half empty, the old man finally sat at the head of the table. The same seat the CEO had occupied moments earlier. Funny how small it looked now. You laughed at my shoes, he said quietly. I don't blame you. He glanced down at them briefly. They walked through places you've never been. No one met his eyes. I learned early, he continued, that noise attracts attention, but silence builds leverage. He closed the folder. This company doesn't need louder voices, he said. It needs stronger foundations. He stood one last time. I'll see you all tomorrow, he said. Same time, different purpose. Then he walked toward the door. No one stopped him. No one followed. The door closed softly behind him. And only then, when he was gone, did the room exhale. The silence lingered, because some lessons don't need to be shouted. They arrive quietly, like an old man in work boots. And they leave behind a truth no one forgets. The shoes were old, but the power never was.